Okay, good evening and Chag Sameach to everyone, Lag BaOmer. So obviously, Bezat Hashem, let me just let my son know. Do we have here? Yeah, okay. We're going to be speaking about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, of course, and what we will do is we will learn the Akdama before the first Torah in Kutam Aran, that this particular teaching appears right next, on a marble tablet right next to the Tzion of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in Meron. And we will read it, we will learn this and understand what does this mean? What is Rabbi telling us? What is, to the best of our ability, what is the significance? Why is it so? Why is Shimon Bar Yochai so unusual in the annals of Am Yisrael? We have literally, hundreds of thousands of people going there to his tzion on his yard site. So Rabbeinu says as follows: go ahead and see the deeds of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Zgalus Niflo, a marvelous revelation. Misoid Gdula Satana Eloki Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Marvelous revelation from the secret of the greatness of the godly Tana Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Now, here Rabbeinu says as follows: Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai Iftiach, Shorthistokach Atera Misrael Yodei Kotzbo. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai has promised that the Torah will not be forgotten through him, from Am Yisrael. So this is basically a combination of two things, two sources. It says, Chazal says, Masechah Shabbos, Shechesura Baseinu Lakerem B'Yavna, when Rabbi Seinu came to the vineyard of Yavna, here we're talking about the period that was right after the Churban Beis Hamikdash. That's the time of the Romans, and so Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was reprieved by the Caesar, and he got a special dispensation to spare the city of Yavna and its sages, so the Torah shall continue. Jerusalem was under siege, and Yochanan ben Zakkai was smuggled out of Yerushalayim, and he was brought to Aspasia, and the famous interaction between them. And he told Aspasia, Shalom alach Malka, Shalom alach Malka. Says, hail unto you, Caesar, hail to you, Caesar. Now, he was not a Caesar at the time. It was just, the general. and conquering Eretz Israel was extremely important on the Roman scale of importance. So they sent him. And so now there was a law, many funny laws in Rome, but the thing is that being a citizen of Rome basically meant that a person was secure anywhere along the Roman Empire. Nobody dared lift a hand against him. One of the rules of Rome that anyone who called someone, the king of Rome, or Caesar, or whatever, and that person that he called was not the Caesar, the person who said that would be condemned to death, was punishable with, it's a capital offense, punishable by death. It's not that the Romans, as we all know, had many problems in, killing people, life was pretty cheap in Rome. So anyhow, he came out and he tells him, Shlomalach Malka. To cut the long story short, what happened was that Aspasianus got the message from Rome that he was appointed the new Caesar, and he was so happy about it that he asked Abraham and Yokai, what would you like? I think he gave him 2 wishes. So one wish, he took me to a doctor to heal Rabbi Tzaddik, who was the Tzaddik of the generation, and he spared Yavne Chachameh. So they came to Yavne, and when they came there, you have to understand that was, the time of the Romans were, times where the relationship between Am Yisrael and the Romans were not consistent. There were high times and low times. During the high times, the kingdom of Judea was a marvel for the Roman intellectuals. It was a revelation. You have to understand that the entire country was one big Mea Shearim, and nobody knew anything about them. And the Romans, had an empire, scanning and spanning, huge areas. And lo and behold, they discovered, a new culture, a new civilization that they knew absolutely nothing about, that was intellectually, spiritually, morally superior to anything they had ever known. And in fact, it became, a very in thing for Roman intellectuals to come to Israel, to study, whatever it is. That was the time. Onkelos became a ger, and so forth and so on. But then, of course, there were other times when the Romans have forbidden even the most basic keeping of the mitzvahs, and anybody who, they didn't fool around. Anybody who did something that the Romans did not want them to do. So to cut a long story short, they went to Rabbatani, came to Yavne. That was the lowest time in the Roman-Jewish relationship. So Chazal, they came there and they said, Asida Torah shetishtokach Yisrael. It is said, this is the Nevo. It says, Hinei yamim ba'im neum Hashem Elokim. Here days are coming, shlachti al ba'aretz. And I shall put, hunger in the land. Lo rav lalechem v'lo tzama lamayim. It's not going to be hunger for bread and not thirst for water. But to hear the words of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And see, and now miyam ad yam, and they should travel from sea to sea, mitzafon v'ad mizrach, from north to east. You know, yishratul levakesh dvar Hashem v'lo yimtzao. They will go scouring, looking, searching dvar Hashem, and they will not find. Dvar Hashem, this is halacha. Dvar Hashem is what the end is. Mashiach. Dvar Hashem is Nevo. And it says, what is Veishalatul Levakesh Dvar Hashem? They will go and look for what is the Kodesh Baruch Hu want from us. It says, Asida Isha Shatita Titol Kikor Beyada, Trumo. That a woman will take a bread of Trumo, made of Trumo wheat, Vesachsa al Basek Nisiyas of Temidoshes, and will go looking for rabbis for Poiskim. To know Mitmiyam Tehera and Mavin. She said, well, it's Tama Tara, and nobody will know. And the Gemara talks at great length. What is the suffix? People know, people won't know. And this is based on the Nevo, you know, Vanochi Aster Astir Pana B'Yom Ha'u. That's Nevo Moshe Rabbeinu said, I'm going to hide, I'm going to double wrap my face that day. And the Chazal said that's the harshest nevuah ever given to Am Yisrael, that the Torah should be forgotten. So, in that particular nevuah, there is also said in that particular. That's just before Shiras Ha'azinu. And before that great poem of Azinu, he says, that the people, will forget, I will double conceal my face at that time. And this Shira that Moshe Rabbeinu is going to recite, will testify, for it shall not be forgotten from the mouth of his offspring. The whole machlokes in the Gemara, what is he talking about? On one hand, he said that I will hide the hiding itself, as Rabbeinu says in Torah about, which means the Torah will be forgotten. Not only forgotten, that it just you won't even know that you forgot something. At that point, on our hand, it says, it shall not be forgotten from the mouth of its offspring. So there's a machlokes about between Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and Chazal. Chazal were Tanoim. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was also a Tanoim, and he said, "I disagree." They said the Torah will be forgotten, and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said it will not be forgotten. So Chazal said, so what is the pasuk? For it shall not be forgotten from the mouth of offspring. That the Shira, that poem of Azinu certifies it will not be forgotten. What are we talking about? So the machlokes is between Chazal and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Is Chazal held that the Shiras of Azinu, that will not be forgotten. The rest of the Torah will be forgotten. And Rabbi Shimon says, no. It will not be forgotten. The entire Torah will not be forgotten. Now, you have to understand the extent of the calamity of the Torah being forgotten, because Rabbi Eliezer said right then and there, when Chacham says, listen, the Torah is going to be forgotten, that he suggested that marriage will be forbidden. Jewish marriage should be forbidden. This is being that the entire Am Yisrael was created in order to keep the Torah. That's the only purpose that there is an Am Yisrael in the world. The purpose is not to win Nobel Prizes in physics or literature or chemistry or economics or finding out things about bugs. None of that. Am Yisrael was created to learn Torah. And if Torah is going to be forgotten, there is no justification for the existence of Am Yisrael. That's what Rabbi Eliezer said. He says, and therefore, he suggested they come up with a decree. From that moment on, no more marriage. It means the end of Am Yisrael. Well, Hashem Chazal did not agree with him. But nevertheless, it just gives you, an idea of how far, this horrendous nevuah goes. Shimon Bar Yochai said, no, it's not going to be forgotten. Forgotten from the mouth of his offspring, goes over the entire term. So up to now, we have machlokes in the Gemara. What does it mean? What will be forgotten? What will not be forgotten? So it's machlokes b'deis. Rabbeinu is saying here something much more profound, much more far-reaching, radical. And he says, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai promised. In other words, it's not just that that's the way he learns it. No, that he promised. It's a promise. The Torah shall be forgotten through him. Now, that particular statement is made out of two makars. One of them is that particular language, the Gemara. And so the Omer Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai shel tishtokach. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said, the Torah will not be forgotten. Shenemar ki lo tishokach mipi zaro. So it shall not be forgotten from the mouth of his offspring. And the reason why it will not be forgotten, it says in the Zohar, B'hai Chibura, in that Sefer, the EU Sefer HaZohar, which is the Sefer HaZohar, if Kumbei Galuso, through this, Am Yisrael will exit the exile. So we learn from that Am Yisrael, that the Geula, that the redemption of Am Yisrael is going to come about through Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai wrote the Zohar. But notice here, we will visit this a little bit later, Rabbeinu is not saying that it is through the limudim of the Zohar, which Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai taught, that Am Yisrael will get out of Galus. When it says it's through him, Am Yisrael is going to come out, is going to be redeemed. And that's sort of a very different light over this whole thing, because the Zohar Kodesh is actually not the Chidushim of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. The Zohar Kodesh are the Chidushim Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai got from Rabbi Akiva, his Rebbe. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was the first to get the Reshus, the permission to reveal the teachings of the Zohar with all, the foundations of Kabbalah and everything that intrinsic in, and is inherent in it. The Chidushim of Rabbi Shimon himself are included in Tikkun Zohar, which is a different sefer, and that's the exponentiation of the 70 facets of the word Bereshis, showing you how the Torah codifies the entire reality in one word. And these 70 rectifications are the deepest, most profound Kabbalah teachings ever. And Rabbeinu said that the difference in stature, in depth between the Zohar, which is the tool with which Am Yisrael is going to be redeemed with, and Tikkun Zohar is like it's a quantum leap from the Zohar. Zohar is like, Tikkun Zohar is way, way, way beyond the actual Zohar. Rabbeinu is not saying that it is through the Zohar says it is through the Zohar that Am Yisrael is going to come out of Galus. Rabbeinu says that Shimon promised it through him. Am Yisrael is going to come out of the Galus. He's the one that wrote, the Zohar. He's the one who's Megal Zohar. So we have to explain this, because this has to do with understanding of the Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's phenomena. So, it says, come and see the wondrous concealed mysteries of our holy Torah. This is why Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai has relied himself on that pasuk specifically. For it shall not be forgotten from the mouth of his offspring. Because in truth, in that pasuk, in this verse, is hidden and alluded to that mystery, that secret, that it is through the offspring of Yokai, father of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. It is through him, through Rabbi Shimon, that the Torah will never be forgotten from Am Yisrael. Now Rabbeinu, learns this in the level of, the level of sod, the level of mystery, the level of remez, this sod shebe remez, and it says as follows: Ki soif tevis shel zeh pasuk, ki lo sishogam pizara, for it shall not be forgotten from the mouth of his offspring. There is Yud, Aleph, Chet, Yud, and Vav. And Oisios Yochai, these letters make up the name Yochai, which is Rabbi Shimon's father. So, V'zeh shemegalim ramaz pasuk ki lo sishogam pizara, for it shall not be forgotten from the mouth of his offsprings. This is what the pasuk is saying, al pi pshat. Whose offspring? Somebody's. Basically, it means Zar of Am Yisrael. But when it says Zar, you're talking about a very specific person, and we don't know who is that person. So Rabbeinu says, Mizaroi, his offspring, specifically a specific person's offspring. Who? Of that particular person who is alluded to, it is alluded to and is hidden, is codified in this pasuk, which is the Tano Yochai. He is the one whose son is going to be the one that to make sure the Torah is never forgotten. It is Yochai, which is alluded to in that pasuk, which is the Shimon Bar Yochai, Al Yado, through him, the Torah will never be forgotten. Rabbeinu says, "V'da shesod Rabbi Shimon be'atzmoi," the secret of Rabbi Shimon himself. Was by pasuk acher. It's alluded to in a different pasuk. Kida ki atona kodesh Rabbi Shimon ubchinas ir vekodesh mishmano yachid. That Rabbi Shimon is a holy burning angel coming down from the Shemaim, which is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. This is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Ir v'kadish mishmar inoches is Rosh Tevis, the first acronym Shimon. So we need to understand here what is going on. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai mentions the Zohar. It is through the Zohar. Rabbeinu says that Rabbi Shimon promised that it would be through Rabbi Shimon himself. In other words, the Zohar is not the instrument. It's just a technique. The instrument for making sure that the Torah is never forgotten, Mimela, that the Geula will come, is Rabbi Shimon. And that is the reason why Am Yisrael is so joyful at the Hilula of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Because what Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai has established, and irrefutably, and on the genetic level of Am Yisrael, is the concept of Tzaddik. There were Tzaddikim, Talmidei Chachomim, Tanoim, Amoraim, Neviim, everything. But we have to understand what happened just a generation before. I had Rabbi Akiva with 24,000 Talmidim, and they all perished. There's a whole, Arizal in Sefer Gilgulim says that these 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva were the neshamas of the 24,000 members of the tribe of Shimon that were killed following the Zimri ben Salu fiasco. And these 24,000 Talmidim themselves were the Gilgul of the people of Shechem that was slaughtered by Shimon and Levi, on the fiasco of Dinah. Ultimately, it is through a Talmid of Shimon Bar Yochai, of Rabbi Akiva, this is when they stopped dying. It says that why do we celebrate Lag BaOmer? It says because that is the day Shepasku Talmidei Rabbi Akiva Lamos, that the Talmidei Rabbi Akiva stopped dying. What do you mean they stopped dying? Whoever died, or didn't die, did not die. What do you mean they stopped dying? One in the middle of dying and then, okay, they stopped, they didn't die. The taich is that this Gilgul of these neshamas of Shechem and then Bnei Shimon, and by that Gilgul of the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva, that was the last Gilgul. They don't have to be reincarnated again. This is when they stopped dying. But something else happened before that people don't pay that much attention to. And that is just before that particular mamzer was walking in the street. And Rabbi Akiva, and I think Rabbi Meir, and another, I'm not sure who it was, they saw him, and he was going in the market bareheaded. And I think Rabbi Meir or the other one said that he's a mamzer, one said that he's been a nida, and Rabbi Akiva says he's both, this and that. And basically, a generation before Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the most crucial concept for redemption was twisted and defiled. And that is the concept of the Tzaddik. It was taken by that man who assigned it to himself and said that everything that depends, all the redemption, whatever it is, of everybody depends on him. and basically took that concept, which is not only a real concept, but is the most essential concept for the Geula, and took a bite of that apple, leaving, the spit marks on the place of the bite, contaminating the most crucial concept in the concept of the Geula. We saw very, very quickly that within 100 years, anybody that followed that particular, tzaddik ador, as it were, left Torah completely. 100, I don't know, 150 years, whatever, after this, it was already made, the canonized, whatever it is that supposedly happened or didn't happen, because of the first, testimonies of supposedly what happened, when he was killed. Each eyewitness report differs, which day it was, how many people were there, and whatever it is. And so only 150 years later, they actually said, okay, the final version is, and this is what they have today. There was a whole political movement between them, where the Jewish part of the established this new religion, the Jewish sect was pushed out, and it became what it became. And Torah was basically pushed out completely, which is the huge chesed that HaKadosh Baruch Hu did with us. Because otherwise people would think that he's the Messiah, he is the Tzaddik, he is the but the damage was done. Okay, we know that it's not him. For the very simple reason that it's not al pi Torah. Very simple. But the damage was done. The damage was not all the millions and millions and millions of Jews that were slaughtered by them throughout history. You can't kill anything that is eternal. The damage was that they actually defiled the concept of Tzaddik, the concept of Mashiach, and from that moment on, and we saw it repeated again and again throughout the generations, you only mention that concept of Tzaddik, and people say, "Ooh, it's Avodah Zarah," because we have had a very, very bad experience with people that took upon themselves, the claim that they are it, and what it means to be it, to be the tzaddik. The Zohar is full with what the tzaddik means, the meaning of the tzaddik, and the kind of accolades that the tzaddik gets in the Zohar HaKadosh. Until today, puts people who are not, who is not open to the concept of tzaddik, it makes it very uncomfortable. It says, these are praises belong to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not to a human being, which obviously is not true. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is way beyond that. This reality is encapsulated better than anything in a single statement of Rabbi Nachman that says, from me, in other words, observing me, you can learn the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. For after all, what am I? Just a piece of human being. So it's very easy to understand what it is that he is. It's just a piece of human being. But think about what it actually says that he is. You can learn from what he is and what he only is, just a shtickle human being, how much far greater Kadosh Baruch Hu is. The Ishbitzer, the Talmud of, I think, the Peshischa, he goes even further. He says that everything that we attribute to Kadosh Baruch Hu is really, the doing of the Tzaddik. Everything is happening through the Tzaddik emes. But that's not an intellectual subject. This is not something that you can talk to people and you argue with them. Yes, it is. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. No, it isn't. The only way that it can be done is that when Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai reveals Sefer HaZohar, that concept of tzaddik emes, tzaddik esel olam, that nema nase odom nema b'varecha, that let's make a human being was said about you. You should follow Hashem Elokechem. He's talking about Shimon Bar Yochai, and all these things has been imprinted on the molecular level, as it were, the atomic level, as it were, particle level, as it were, the DNA of Am Yisrael. And Am Yisrael is voting with their feet. Hundreds of thousands of people come to the Hilula of Shimon Bar Yochai, dancing and rejoicing for the very existence of the tzaddik. I would say that 99.99% of all the people who come there have absolutely no idea what it is they're celebrating. There's no need. The very same way that you don't need to have any inkling of what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in order to believe in him and do what he says. The same thing you don't need, and there's no way that you can have any inkling of what tzaddik actually is. There are no words to say it. But the imprint is so strong that it is eternal. And Am Yisrael comes there, and no matter what you do, they will go there. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Because the very same way that Likutei Moharan is not Rabbi Nachman. Likutei Moharan is just is just a tool with which, when you learn, Rabbi Nachman is so way beyond Likutei Moharan. So how can you have any shaychus with him? By learning the Likutei Moharan. Well, Likutei Moharan, so Rabbi Nachman can get into you, can have a kesher with you, can be connected to you. Sefer HaZohar, when you learn Sefer HaZohar, you are connecting with Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, whose essence and meaning is way beyond the Zohar Kadosh. In fact, it's not even his chidushim. He just got permission to reveal them. His chidushim are way beyond that in Tikkun Zohar. The only way to celebrate the concept of tzaddik is by celebrating the Hilula of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said that Torah nishtaka from Am Yisrael through him. That means that it's not just that, if you learn Zohar, then, obviously if you learn Zohar, that speeds up the Geula. But it's not just those who learn Zohar, not just those who learn Kabbalah. Without Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, there would be no Ponifesh. There would be no Yeshiva of Lakewood. There would be no Chevron Yeshiva. There would be no Slobodki Yeshiva. There would be no Hasidus. There would be no Maharal of Prague. There would be no Reb Kiva Eger. None of them would exist. The entire existence, the entire Torah, that Am Yisrael has learned throughout the journey from the days of Shimon Bar Yochai is rests on the shoulders of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Until it came, Baruch Hashem, to our time, 200 and some years ago, when the final, I mean, it's not the final one is Mugan Mashiach, the final time before Mashiach was actually congealed in Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said, it is within my powers to absolve the entire world from judgment. And had I had the schus of Yosam ben Uziyahu, the king Yosam ben Uziyahu, together with me, we would be able to absolve the world from judgment until the end of time. But it didn't have that schus with him. Rabbi Nachman already said, you can lean on my great strength. It's no longer I can. No. It's already here. It's already done, and you can lean on it. You can trust it. Leaning means that you lean, and if it's not there, you fall down. So Moshe Rabbeinu, it's open. I mean, without Moshe Rabbeinu, nothing starts. So the concept of the Tzaddik Moshe Rabbeinu is open to everybody. The Torah says, Kodesh Baruch Hu says, they believe in you forever. And the Torah says that Hashem believed in Hashem and Moshe Avda in Moshe, his servant. And the Torah says the minute that there's Korach and Adosai, they make any kind of hanky-panky, says, hey, what about democracy? This is not democratic. The earth open up and swallows it. In other words, when it comes to Moshe Rabbeinu, no dissent is allowed. But the world goes down and down and down and down until it comes to a point that the Torah is actually on the cusp of being lost forever. So then comes the revelation of Shimon Bar Yochai, the Tzaddik. Baruch Hu B'ezrat Hashem bless us all. That with the koyach of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he says, Kedayu Rabbi Shimon Lismocha B'shachat Tzadchak. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is trustworthy to lean on in a time of need. He says he's worthwhile. In other words, he's trustworthy. Rabbi Nachman already said, you can trust on my great koyach. In other words, that's an upgraded installment of that bechina of Tzaddik Esod Olam, the Tzaddik Emes. This is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. This is the reason why Am Yisrael is singing. Dafka Rabbi Shimon. Because right after, Yamach Shemay V'Zichroi has contaminated that crucial element in the Geula of Am Yisrael. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was the Talmud of Rabbi Akiva, has reestablished it. And we have Sefer Zohar, we have Torah, we have Rabbeinu, the Arizal, we have Rabbeinu Baal Shem Tov, we have Rabbeinu Ben Nachman, and Bezat Hashem soon in our days we'll have Mashiach Tzidkeinu B'Karav Mamash, Bezat Hashem will build Beis HaMikdash, we'll see with our own eyes, and Bezat Hashem soon in our days, At Kana Kofa Aleph, Lag BaOmer, Tafshin, Pei Beis, Bezat Hashem should be around to see Mashiach Tzidkeinu soon in our days.